Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Toon Review. Tonight, again, something a little bit different in, of course, the build-up to the World Cup, which is literally 6 weeks away. It's incredible to think, but it is so close. And, well, we're just talking about mainly Newcastle United players and what their chances are of making that World Cup squads for the various countries. Obviously, the big one is Joelinton. You know, many people just trying to decide if he's going to be the man that can actually get into the Brazil squad and maybe change it up a little bit. Of course, we've got other Newcastle players to talk about as well. And it's going to be interesting because the build-up of the World Cup is going to be huge. Obviously, the England squad, but we also have many other nationalities representing their teams, hopefully, in the World Cup. So we'll look at them as well. And we'll start off with just a few of your comments. But if you do enjoy tonight's show, guys, as usual, please do hit the like button. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, super chats are available if you hit that $sign at the bottom of the live comments. And why not become a subscriber if you're not already? Join the Toon Review family. Hit that button. It's free to do so. And also the notification bell, which will let you know when we upload or we go live. Darren Wong says, why not? He's better than Fred. Michael, good evening. Beat says, evening all. Just seen something that has wound me up. FIFA 23, you've only given Bruno an 81 rating. Absolute joke. He's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And Joelinton's 78 rating. Don't get me started. Yeah, it's caused a little bit of an uproar, that, Alex.
Yeah, Bruno's actually seen it himself, and he's retweeted it with the emoji of him like going,
yeah,
because even he disagrees with that. I mean, you guys who are regular viewers have seen us view Bruno statistics, and they've done him dirty on a video game because he is a lot better than they've given him credit for. He deserves more than that.
Certainly does. And by the way, obviously there's been a few photographs come out when Karius was getting interviewed today with a certain Bruno in training. So he is possibly going to be available for the game against Bournemouth on Saturday, which goes ahead, thankfully. So we can get back to some sort of normality with the Premier League. There will be a few games off, obviously, but Newcastle's will go ahead. Cesare says, hi all. Remember to keep comments respectful, no all caps or duplicate comments, and enjoy the show. Gary, good evening. Paul Stato, good evening, everyone in the chat. Phoenix Pork Pie says, don't like Fred, always gets picked for Brazil. Alex will undoubtedly look at his stats and, oh, hi, everyone. Well, Phoenix Pork Pie is definitely getting used to typing out in the comments now. Renier, good evening to you. Fred, Joelinton for me all day. Evening, Ashley, 80s. Solly says, evening all. I was so happy with last night's show. Watched it earlier. What a laugh. Thank you very much. Tom says, evening, everyone. Before we start talking about Big Joe in the World Cup, great news that the match is definitely going ahead on Saturday. It certainly is. Gary says, let's remember to hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet or new to the channel, then consider subscribing. It is free. Absolutely well echoed, Gary. Big Geordie says, evening all. Great to see the Toon's Brazilian duo lighting up the World Cup. Definitely my second team for the tournament, if that's the case. Really hope the call-up happens for J7. He's earned it. George says, evening, everyone watching from hospital again. Hope you're get well soon, George. I really do. Evening, Carlos. Evening, Carl. Samsonite says, evening all. Footy's back this weekend. Let's make it a double-digit victory. That would be nice. With Isak scoring about 6 of them. Toon Dave says, good evening all. Hope you're all well tonight. Looking forward to another great show. Clarky, good evening. Toon fan, good evening. Will says, hey guys, looking forward to the show. Good evening, Ian. Alex says, hey everyone, Joelinton is a beast of a midfielder and offers so much. But would he work with the rest of the Brazil squad and play the way Brazil do? Well, I think Alex will be showing you something very interesting coming up, of course, of how Brazil play and how Joelinton would possibly fit into that. Good evening, Majestic. I'd definitely have either of them over Fred from Man U. Evening, Devon. David. Samsonite says, to be perfectly honest, I'm divided. I'd rather that our players don't risk injury. There's going to be a lot of that, I think, in the World Cup, Alex, with a lot of Premier League managers because of when the World Cup is. In the Premier League, I think it kicks off literally a week after the World Cup final, is it? They get Christmas out the way and then we're away again. So, injuries are going to be massive for a lot of Premier League clubs.
Yeah, I think with the way we play specifically, it's not really bothered us previously because we never used to play a high intensity style, but now we do. We're injuring ourselves, to be fair, at club level, that they're getting injured. So with a long season, with the way we play, where we saw this quite a lot. We went for the Saudi Arabia. They were knackered. Then we went for the Saudi Arabia trip. They came back and they gave us eight or nine games on the trot of high intensity, and then they started to fade a bit, and then we got pumped by Tottenham, and then the lads were quite tired. We go through cycles, and the high intensity stuff gets hard, especially with a few injuries.
Indeed.
So, and we've seen it again this season. We hadn't played that much, and the lads were getting tired. Fair enough to them. It was because we were playing the top teams in the country straight away, which is just unfortunate. But the World Cup would be better if we've got most of our better players at home, actually.
Absolutely. Ian Fleming, good evening, everyone. And RIP Dave Smith, one of the former coaches at Newcastle United, has passed away, unfortunately. I think he worked under Joe Harvey, as far as I can remember. Big sad news there. And thoughts and prayers go to Dave's family. Jim, good evening. Evening, G. Angelica says, evening, everyone. I'm listening while cooking steak. Hubby's not well, so off work, bugging the life out of me. Well, cooking him steak might just cheer him up, Angelica, to be honest. Raymond says, I want Big Joe to go, but if we draw Brazil, oh my God, he will hammer England's midfield. Yeah, that is something that he probably would do. Ian Toon Trader, good evening, buddy. All right, Paul and Alex, hope you're well. Shane says, evening, guys. Been away for a week getting rehab on the Achilles tendon, but ready for the game Saturday. 4-0 hammering to the boys. Jimmy says, evening from Cornwall. Good evening. Paul says, good evening, Paul and Alex. Yes, Brazil should take Joelinton to the World Cup. As I see, Brazil will be one of the favourites. Jose says, hello, everyone. Great topic. Interested to see what everyone's opinions are. Nathan says, only 7 games could make for an interesting FPL weekend. It could do, yeah. NUFC lad says, my opinion on Big Joe going to the World Cup, 100% he deserves due to his magnificent performances and brilliant work rate. He brings so much to any team. Even in all, another live stream that I watched just finished that was interesting, worst players ever. Yes, Graham, but we've already done that quite a few weeks ago on this channel. So if you want to go and see ours, it is available on here. Good evening, Matt. Hope you're well, buddy. Evening from all the Devon Magpies. Good evening. Very interesting, strange username, but good evening. Rich says, evening to you both. The Queen died on my 50th birthday, so put a bit of a dampener on it. I'm sorry to hear that, mate, but I hope you had a good 50th anyway. What about Botman for the Dutch first team? We'll be touching on that, Chippers. Don't you worry your shoes about that. They should have just put all 7 games on TV with it only been 7 games. Sorry, nothing to do with the World Cup, but I understand why 2 London clubs have had matches postponed this weekend. But why has Man United? Because it's Man United Leeds, and it's a massive policing event, and there's a lot of police from various police forces will be going down to London for the whole funeral over the weekend. So that is why that one is postponed, because Man United Leeds is a huge game and needs policing properly. And they don't have the personnel to cover that game, as well as send police down to London. So that's why that's cancelled. FIFA only know what they know, otherwise they would be managers in real life. It's only a game. Yeah, well, it's not actually FIFA that decide the ratings. The ratings are done by the games. It's EA Sports who do it all, and they're Canadian. So it says a lot about it, really.
Shocking. It's abysmal. I've seen a few videos recently where players have they've been given their FIFA card and their strength has gone down, for example, and then they'll say to the camera, I've put on a few kilos and I'm actually stronger in the gym. I'm stronger on the pitch this year, and they've made my strength lower. Like, they just haven't got a clue. It's the way they
certainly
do the
don't put the research into it like the guys at Football Manager do. I mean, they've got a lot of staff that work a lot of hours to put a lot together. Yeah.
You know how I always complain about when we do player ratings about the majority of the football world don't do player ratings from 0 to 10. They typically start it at what? 3? Nobody ever gets less than a 3 or 4 in public ratings, which is ridiculous. It should be a 1 to 10. And the same can be said of FIFA when they rate players. The worst players in the game are at 30s and 40s out of 100. So they've fallen short because they just don't use a scale correctly, and that's all it is.
George says, thanks, Paul. We'll do if they sort my ticker out this time. Well, hopefully they will, George. Toon Dave says, is that Alex drinking Coke from a wine glass? Sorry, wrong show. Evening, John. Yeah, we know what John's like for drinking Coke from a wine glass. Carl says, I would have Fred Flintstone over Fred. I think all would do, to be honest. Geordie Tunefly says, Fred and Joelinton play in different positions. Don't use Fred's form for Man United. Rate him for Brazil. Apparently, he does play a lot better for Brazil, actually.
He actually plays in Joelinton's position for Brazil as well.
He does. Up there once this evening, Paul and Alex noticed J7 not made the squad, but he certainly would do a job for them and offer something different. Well, there's a few actually not in the latest Brazil squad. Jesus isn't there either. Casemiro's not there.
Is he not?
No, I don't think so. I think I read today that he's not in it. There's a few not being called up, which I find strange.
It was Martinelli and Jesus were the two big ones I heard.
Yeah, I'm sure it might not be Casemiro, by the way. It might be somebody else, but there was definitely three names. Alan says, I think Joe might provide a different option to Brazil to what they have right now. Maybe an option coming off the bench to affect strategy. Dave says, see Sam Fender cancel gigs and have an arrest. What did you do to him, Paul? I didn't do anything, but, I'd just like to say, by the way, very brave of him to come out with that statement on social media, explaining that he's having a few mental issues at the minute, just wants to concentrate on himself for a while and look forward to next year. So we wish Sam all the best and hope he gets back to his normal self soon. But it was very, very brave for him to come out with what he did, and people should be praised for doing things like that. Joelinton over Fred, 100%. I mean, that's going to be the common thing, isn't it, Alex? People saying Joelinton over Fred. He's the obvious target, really, for who should come out with the Brazilian squad.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have missed out. It's a difficult squad to get into. Coutinho's missed out, and I mean, rightly so. I don't think he's been particularly good recently. Jesus, a strange one to be left out. Martinelli arguably can be left out, although he's still very good. They're leaving a lot of players out, and their midfield is absolutely stacked. Obviously, we'll get on to who's in it, but they've just got so much quality and depth, especially in the midfield and attacking area as well. And in defence, just across the pitch, they've got Edison and Alisson. They've got two of the best keepers on the planet. Yeah. They've got a few of the best attackers and midfielders on the planet as well. I mean, their DMs to choose from are Casemiro and Fabinho. So, both in the Champions League final as the CDMs.
Absolutely.
So they've got the two Champions League final defensive midfielders. So they're not doing bad.
Yeah. Toon Dave says, isn't Bruno's FIFA card less this year than his 22 one? Bloody crazy. It'll be an incentive if you want to get that up more. I think Joelinton should be playing for Brazil. Even Roberto Carlos said it. Yes, he did. That's a huge boost to somebody like Joelinton, who's going to see somebody say that, and it's going to boost his confidence, massively. J-Lo says, hey guys, hope you're both well. Unfortunately, in my opinion, has little to no chance to get in the squad. He's still never been called up, so going into a World Cup, you just don't add someone new who's never been in the plans. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's been a lot of people called up to World Cup squads over the past and never played. Over the World Cups over the years. You look at.
I do agree with that opinion to a level. I think he's going to be very lucky.
I think he will as well. But on not having a cap and going straight in and performing in a World Cup, you look at Scalacci. Michael Owen did it when he was 17 in France.
It could be a case of injuries as well. If there's a couple of injuries get picked up, then he might get a squad call up. You never know.
Yeah. Ashley's 80 says we would get hurt against them, but then England should take burn target and trips to stop them. We'll come on to that. Thoughts on the Carrier signing? Well, we may as well touch quickly on that because it obviously affects Newcastle United. Alex, I put a little short video out earlier on today announcing that Newcastle United obviously had waited. This was all done and dusted for me last week, but they'd waited obviously because of the Queen passing away. They'd waited till the right time to announce it, which they did earlier on this afternoon. For me, I don't think it's a bad signing, Alex. I think, given that they don't know how long Darlow's going to be out for, clearly, because the initial agreement is only till January with an option to extend if Carl Darlow's still not fit.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a better keeper than people are giving him credit for over the internet. Yeah, Pope is number one, obviously. But, I mean, arguably, Karius is an upgrade on Carl Darlow, to be fair. He's not played as much football recently. Actually, yeah. He got 4 appearances for Union Berlin in the Bundesliga, mixed ratings. He got a lot of minutes. I think it's 25, 27 appearances in the Turkish league. The year before that, mixed performances. Some performances were good, some were average. A few performances, though, was full of good distribution, many saves, and then a few games where he's a bit quieter. So he's definitely got it in his locker. And for a backup, that's all we need him to be. We need him to be a backup. We need him to be a competent-ish backup, and that's it. And I think he's potentially better than Carl Darlow at the moment. Darlow's a good keeper. I think he's slightly underrated. But again, Karius is not as old as people think. He's only 29. So he's not past it. Obviously, his physique.
I think Karius gets a lot of hammer for the Champions League final, doesn't he? That's where people really remember him from.
Well, I'm a bit of a European league snob for this. I don't like it when somebody goes into a different league for a few years and they just remember their performances from a Premier League season and they just completely go off them. Absolutely, it doesn't mean they're the same player as they were then. And let's not pretend that Karius, he had actually a really good season that year. It was like a few games where he messed up at the highest level. We don't need him to be performing at a Champions League final level.
Yeah. It's always going to be noticed at that level.
We need him to turn up against Fulham, for example. We don't need to play against the Champions League finalists. It's fine. We just need him to be clever.
I mean, will he play much? That's the question. I don't think he will. Ian Fleming, thank you for the £5 super chat, buddy. He says, I don't see why Joelinton can't at least be in the squad for the World Cup. Ryan, good evening, buddy. He says, latest France attack from the Nations League. Mbappe, Benzema, Griezmann, Diaby, Coman and Ben Yedder. ASM can displace Ben Yedder, who has 0 goals, and Griezmann only comes on after 60 minutes. Look, I think ASM's got a big
Giroud
chance.
in there as well, to be fair. I know he didn't get picked, but Giroud can get picked.
Yeah, I think Giroud will go to the World Cup. I definitely think that. Devon says, hi, Paul. Start Toon review. I hope Joelinton gets a call-up to the national team. He's more than deserves a spot in the Brazil team. Great show, guys, as always.
And Nkunku as well. You forgot about Nkunku for Leipzig. There's Giroud and Nkunku. They've got like 9. It's ridiculous. They've got a lot. Right, have you got some graphics there that you want to bring up, Alex, first of all? I think we'll start with Brazil, obviously. Yeah, we can start with. I'm going to do it in the reverse. So everybody hates Fred. So let's play devil's advocate. If my laptop wants to stop dying, that would be great. Hang on a minute. Let me just close a couple of things because it is chugging. we don't want to freeze while I'm on stream. That would be really bad.
That wouldn't be good.
There we go. Right, so let's share Mr. Frederington's. There he is. So, what's the problem with Fred? Why do we not like him? So 29 years old, so 3.5 years older than Joelinton. 5'7", so he's considerably smaller. Not as good in the air. Left-footed versus Joelinton is right-footed, so there is a bit of a difference there. Does typically play in a double pivot, but is a lot better in a 3. His better performances for Manchester United were when he was allowed to be a bit more of an 8 and have less defensive responsibility and just concentrate a bit more on a slightly different phase of play. And he contributed towards goals and certain things. So if you scroll down and have a look at his statistics, his general statistics, tackles and pressures are very good. Interceptions are very good. It's a myth that he's not a good defender. He's just not a good linchpin. I mean, there's a difference. Like Longstaff's not bad at tackling, but when you try and tell him to be John Joe Shelvey, he's not John Joe Shelvey. Like, there's a difference between being good at defending and being in a specific position. Like, it's not Fred's fault necessarily. He's just been put in that position. It's just not working at all. It's not his position at all. I mean, if we compare his statistics to people we know, if we pop over here, his 10th statistical match is actually Bruno. So, and then he's got Højbjerg in there, Bentancur, Camavinga from Real Madrid. He's got some very, very good company in his spread of statistics and how he plays on the pitch, because he's not a bad player. He gets a lot of bad press. He's just used very ineffectively for Manchester United because they've just got incompetent coaches. So if we scroll down and have a look at his recent seasons, so his output's pretty poor. His best season from midfield was 4 goals last year. Joelinton also got 4 last year. So you could argue that he's not any more of a goal threat or provides any more goalward than Joelinton does, which is probably a plus for Joelinton, to be fair. So if we then swap over to Joelinton, here he is. So 26, sorry, 3.5 years younger. So he's got that on his side. He is considerably taller and right-footed. And if we scroll down,
I think he's taller than 6'2.5". You know,
really?
When you see,
he might be.
I don't know what you think, but I think when you see
is
him,
wrong. He definitely weighs more than that. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So if we scroll down, it's funny to see Joe Willock in his stat matches. Mikel Merino as well, who was obviously ours, and Conor Gallagher. Yeah. So he likes a bit of ball driving. So you've got to remember that some of these statistics are influenced by a bunch of performances that he played up front, especially with Steve Bruce. So these statistics are taken over a 12-month period. So this will include a bunch of rubbish matches in September, October, November, December, in which he was playing out of position, much more further forward, and just in a wonky team with a bit of Bruce and a bit of Howe getting to grips with things. So this can improve a lot more than it currently is, really. So that being said, defensive statistics are brilliant. Much better with his aerials, blocks, clearances, things like that. He puts himself about. His recoveries are immense. We've seen this a lot. And he's a bit more offensive. He's a bit more of an offensive threat. Receives a lot of balls high up in the pitch. Has a lot of touches in the attacking area. Shot creating actions is very high as well. 1.5 shots per game is good. So statistically, he's doing very, very well. Considering he's still got like 3 months of crap muddying this data, that's pretty decent. I'm quite impressed with this. And then the big one is, I need to find the hang on a minute.
Just while you're doing that, Alex, George Hayes, thank you for your $56.10. Really appreciate that, my friend. He says a lot of strength and depth the Brazilians have for midfield and forwards. The coach does not favour him. It will be really tough for Big Joe to break through. Looking for injuries to happen, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be his best way in. There you go, Alex.
Yeah, so this is we're just going to play around with Brazil midfielders. So this is probably their most favoured mid 3 when they use a 3 is Casemiro as the DM. So Joelinton's never going to get in as a DM, ever. He's never going to get selected ahead of Fabinho or Casemiro in this defensive midfield role. Yep. The only thing he's got on his side are the fact that he's considerably younger than these two. So Paqueta on the right, sometimes used as a 10, but on the right, and then Fred on the left. The reason he's used on the left, which is interesting actually, is because he does some left-sided defensive cover, which might sound familiar to some of you guys because this is what Joelinton does as well. So at international level, Fred actually has a bit more safety in the defensive sort of area, and he often, because let's grab a 9. No, he's not going to be 9. Let's give him 3. So for example, when Renan Lodi plays, when we looked at Lodi, we spoke about the fact that Lodi likes to go really, really high, really aggressive up here, and Fred will have to cover in behind in those spaces. Defensively. And then he will just sit and contribute and do some passes and not be quite as drivey. And the way they will also play is they will also try and feed the ball up to Neymar short. So let's give Neymar a little name there. So this is Neymar. So another similarity to us as a team, to Newcastle, is the fact that they play with a huge emphasis on the left side for Brazil. Most of the time, it will be the more aggressive fullback is on the left, and they want to feed the ball to Neymar short. Now, this is for us Matt Target, and this is for us is Maxi. So they play in a very similar way to we do. They try and effectively get the ball up to attackers slightly deeper, and then you've got people over here, i.e. Wilson, but for Brazil it's Jesus, Richarlison, things like that, running slightly further behind. So they play in a similar system. So Fred has been good at international level at doing this. and Fred is more comfortable in a 2. Arguably, he's rubbish because Man United have been rubbish when he's been in a 2. But arguably, he's got a lot more experience than Joelinton in a 2. But
do you think he stands out? Do you think he just plays better because he's got better players around him to cover his ass most of the time?
It's very, very possible. But I personally believe that Joelinton would be absolutely fine in this role. I think he could cover the defensive spaces because he does it for us all the time. I think he'd win the ball back more often when necessary, win more aerial duels, and he would be able to protect the ball and drive it forward and give it to Neymar, and he would be able to play do overlaps and help here. It's perfect. It would work perfectly fine. The only issues is at the moment is statistically the passing is a bit off for Joelinton because he tries about half as many passes per game as Fred, but that's just because of the instructions we give him. In my opinion, I think his instructions are more progress the ball, whereas Fred tends to recycle possession, and they have been trying a bit more possession football since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked. They tried a bit more possession football with Ragnick and stuff, and they didn't want to be counter-attacking. They tried as much possession as they could get away with, which I think inflates Fred's passing statistics. So it's not a negative on Joelinton at all.
No, not at all. But if we look at obviously another one of Newcastle United's Brazilian stars, which is of course Bruno, where does he fit into that?
This is the tricky question. This is the catch-22 because
Bruno, if Bruno
also plays there.
A few times. Yeah,
he also plays there.
Yeah.
So this is the real kicker. This is where Bruno plays for Brazil because Bruno is unlikely to get minutes. I mean, he can play here. We know he can play here, but he's unlikely to displace Fabinho and Casemiro in that DM position. And he doesn't typically go out on the right. They've got other midfielders that do that. I mean, ones that haven't been mentioned. They've still got Everton and Coutinho that have been left out. Yeah. So they've got other midfielders, and this is Everton Ribeiro, not the other. There's a few Evertons. There's a lot of Brazilians called Everton. It's not the same one. So yeah, Bruno would play on this left side as well. So we'll have to see. It's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be a very, very tricky one. I think if they get 1 or 2 injuries, I think that he's got a chance. But he's not. The thing is with Joelinton,
I mean, how many players are we talking about getting injured before Joelinton gets a shout? I mean,
probably
you're talking
2.
At least 3 or 4.
I would say 2. I would say if one of these left-sided ones get injured, and somebody else from the midfield, I think he's got a chance. But if it's for example, if it's Everton and Coutinho get injured, then it might not impact it. It depends who gets injured.
Coutinho's been rotten this season. He's been rotten. So, Villa fans have wanted him out the team for other players. So it's a tough one, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. Certainly for Joelinton, not for Bruno. He's pretty much established in the Brazilian squad, and I don't think that's going to change barring any injuries, touch wood. So I think we'll be seeing Bruno much rather than Joelinton.
I think the issue with Fred over Joelinton is that Joelinton has no real Europa League, Champions League experience on display. He doesn't have the portfolio to show to an international manager that Fred's got to show. I understand Fred's been poor for many periods of time, but he's got Champions League experience, Europa League experience. Let's not forget Man United have won a lot of knockout games, group games in Champions League with Fred in the team, and Fred has a lot more caps, so he's a lot more trusted with Tite. And they've won cups and stuff. They had a famous win. Was it Peru? They got a 1-0 win where they played a funny 4-1-4-1, and Fred was very important in that. Fred's been in and around that team for a long time. So I think Joelinton could offer slightly more and slightly different things, but Fred is probably a safer bet for the manager. So maybe a disappointing answer for people, but I would love Joelinton to start or to be taken to the squad, but I think they're going to need at least a couple of injuries or a drastic change of mind. But we'll see. They play against Ghana in their friendly coming up in September, so we'll see how they get on there.
Well, I think given the small amount of time there is now between now and the World Cup, it is going to be hard for Big Joe. It is. But listen, he can only perform as well as he's doing. He can only keep doing it, and then we'll see what happens. But it's a massive ask. Soli says he has one thing going for him. He's an absolute unit. When you look in the midfield, you do see a smallish side. Foxy says, personally, I'd have Danilo, Gerson, Bruno, Fred, Casemiro, Paqueta, Everton, Coutinho, Fabinho, Claudinho, Vega, Scorpa, all ahead of Joelinton right now. There's a couple of them I wouldn't. But again, that's your opinion, Foxy. Where was that? Tony says, you'd change your name if you were called Everton. Absolutely. Turpy says, Fred is actually a good player. He needs to be given more license to go forward. He isn't like they tried to play.
I have a hot take on this. I would take him for us and play him in Willock's position. I think he'd do really well. I think he'd do great in that position because he wouldn't have to do the same things he does for Man United at all. I think he'd be allowed to just express himself a bit more. Interesting.
So there you go. I mean, it's going to be tough for him, isn't it, Joelinton? But he's one of those outsiders at the minute. But like I say, 6 weeks, you never know what happens in football in 6 weeks. It's touch and go. But it's going to be very, very difficult to see Joelinton going. Ashley says, I agree. For me, it's a strength thing. Geordie Toon for life. Alex, that's a lovely touch. Having a picture of our late Queen. Rest in peace, Mom. Stiff says, interesting hearing this young Brazilian lad we've been linked with, Andre Santos, a CDM who was 18. Well said.
He's interesting.
Fred is an easy scapegoat in England. Sorry, what were you going to say there?
No, the young kid, the Andre Santos kid. I had a look at him very vaguely when his name first came up. But he's in the second Brazilian league. I watch bits of the Brazilian league. I'm not going to be a snob and pretend I watch the second tier in Brazil because I do not. I absolutely don't. So I've never seen this kid ever. But I had a little brief look, and he only turned 18 halfway through the season. And he's another one of these young Brazilian talents who looks reasonably good in a league full of men. So when they're putting up good numbers, it's really, even if we don't get any of these kids, it's really flattering to be linked with wonder kids.
Absolutely, it's completely different to what we know. Maybe we can get a stat or breakdown of Andre Santos sometime. If he signs, we'll have a look at him.
I think he's from Vasco da Gama. I think he was from.
Is
that the name of it?
Right, if we move on, we'll talk a bit about Sven Botman now, Alex, because obviously Botman himself has been in the. It's hard to imagine that he's still an under-21 footballer. It's bizarre given the size of him, But he again has got some big names to contend with in that Dutch back line, hasn't he?
He has indeed. I mean, he's been playing for the under-21s, so that just goes to show how much strength and depth they've got. I mean, for reference, the one thing that is in his favour are the senior side are using a back five or a back three, depends how you look at it. 3 centre backs, so he's got slightly more chance of getting in a senior team. But yeah, with De Ligt, with Martin Zindi, Ake, who else? Who was on the bench? I mean, that's before you talk. Yeah, De Vrij as well. No Van Dijk in that squad either. Yeah, they've got a lot of strength in depth when it comes to centre back and a lot of trusted people. Oh, Urian Timber as well, who was linked with the Man United move. So Ake and De Vrij are getting a lot of minutes. As does De Ligt, as obviously does Van Dijk. But yeah, it's going to be real tricky for him. It's not through any fault of his own or any lack of quality. I think it's purely age.
Yeah, Stiff says there, Van Dijk has been poor this season, and he's, of course, 31. Botman is the future of their back line. I mean, it's obviously, the coach. Who's coach of Holland at the minute? It's still
Louis van Gaal, I think.
Louis van Gaal. So he'll be aware of Botman without a shadow of a doubt, won't he? So it's just a case of, I mean, he'll know Van Dijk's not playing very well at the minute. He'll know, to me, De Ligt has a few mistakes in him as well. I've seen him a few times. But again, it's just once you're established in that Dutch squad, it is very difficult to be sort of edged out, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the advantage Botman's got is he won the league in France when they had absolutely no right to with that PSG team in that league. Anybody winning the league has got to be like crazy praised because that is insane. So he won the league as a child, essentially, as a centre back in a back four, which is incredible. He played Champions League football for a season. He looked all right, to be fair. He played against a lot of tough sides.
Yeah.
He's got some good pedigree. It's not like the conversation we've just had about Joelinton, where he's lacked that experience in certain regards. Botman's got a trophy. He's got a title. He's played Champions League. I think he could do the step up. I don't think there'd be any issue, especially playing in a back five. I think he'd be fine.
Yeah. Will he get the shout, though? That is the thing. Again, only 6 weeks left. You know, would Louis van Gaal put him into the squad just as a backup because maybe he thinks, you know, some of these well-established defenders
been announced yet? Let me have a look. Because the last game they played was on the 14th of when is that? June. But they've got 2 fixtures this month. They're playing against Poland and Belgium on the 22nd and the 25th. So I'll have to see if they've announced their squad.
Well, De Ligt didn't play well at the weekend. But I know he's had a few dodgy games this season. Ashley 80 says Botman will be right for the squad as he's coming to age for them. I can see him getting some game time and impressing. But he's only going to get that game time and impress if he gets in the sort. I think. Are you looking for their current squad lineup? Because I'm not sure whether he's.
It might not have been announced yet.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's been announced yet. So maybe it hasn't. If anybody in the chat knows, maybe I don't think it's been announced. I think the Brazil squad was announced far earlier than anybody else's because I don't think anybody's announced anything yet.
It's still a few weeks away, so it's normally the week before, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the game's on the 22nd, so we're nowhere near that yet.
Exactly. Ab says you just can't ignore Botman's talent. He will be their main man in time. David says if our players get rest during the World Cup, may help us push on second half of the season. So cool you'd forget he's 21. Botman literally plays like a 26 to 28-year-old. And he does because he's got that composure. I know a lot of people were a little bit worried. The first few games they saw him, he was... he made a couple of errors, but he's bound to. Like I say, he's a kid and he's just come into the Premier League. So for me, this guy can only get better. And he says De Ligt, Van Dijk, De Vries, at the moment, even in that abomination of a footballer in Bruno Martins, Indy is high in Van Gaal's plans. Struggle to see a route in for Botman now.
Well, he values a lot of
crap.
I mean,
in 2 years' time, Botman will have a value of more than 100 million.
Well, maybe. I was just going to say Van Gaal picks his team lineups in the same way Man United managers do in the recent years. It's just confusing, to be honest. Yeah, Botman's value could be. It depends what we do. If we absolutely, exceed expectations. Like for example, if we have no more injuries and we get fourth, we're not saying that's going to happen, but it has happened in years where squads have just had no injuries and they just go on one. If that happens hypothetically and Botman's a linchpin in that defense, then his value skyrockets. Yep,
absolutely. Yano says reality check. In the not too distant future, all our players are going to be the mainstays of their national sides. Spacebar says Joelinton won't go to the World Cup like ASM until recently. He has very little end product. It's not so much the end product I think we're looking for with Joelinton at the minute. It's what he offers differently to the end product. Brazil.
I would argue with that. He's a ball-winning midfielder and he scored the same as Fred. So I feel like that's a moot point. I don't think that makes sense to say that.
No. I think, he plays a different role now. So, Brazil have got an array of talent to put the ball in the net rather than Joelinton. I don't think that would be his role anyway. Steph Gates says, Botman's first actual start for us was against Man City at St. James's. Chucked in at the deep end at 22 years old and did well against probably the best side in the world. Crazy introduction to Newcastle. It was. And I think he did really well. There was only the one where he tried to take it on his chest and nearly got caught out. But that's fine. You're going to get that when you first come into the Premier League. But he's looked very accomplished since then.
He looks happy as well, which I'm really pleased because there was all that drama about AC Milan and will he, won't he?
And then when he
ultimately said,
"Oh, he's not smiling for the cameras and all of this."
But I mean, ultimately, he said he came to us for the dual purpose of the fact he wanted to try the Premier League, and then he gets that 3-3 match against City, and then he just hasn't stopped smiling. When Maxi scored that goal against Wolves, he was beaming. He had a grin from ear to ear, and he's really enjoying himself. You can see it, and you can definitely tell he's happy with the decision he made because he's playing some really good football and it's exciting.
definitely. Foxy says, I see Botman, Joelinton as players that get the opportunity after a World Cup. Some players will no doubt retire from international duty. Ab says, if it wasn't for VAR, we would be top 4. And now players will be very seriously considered for these big national teams. Lee says, I think Joelinton would find his confidence playing for Brazil and would score more because the players around him leave it on a plate. Alex is honestly seeing the team celebrate a goal. Botman is the happiest man there. I think that's more to do with the camaraderie that the whole squad have got at the minute. It's fantastic seeing the celebrations when they score, because not one player does not go over to the goal scorer and celebrate. They all go over. Zara says Brazil could only benefit from having someone with Joelinton's work effort. The guy's reserves have reserves. Yeah, he does. He seems to run out of steam and then gets that extra tank. And then that extra tank runs out. He's got another one.
We haven't mentioned that. The fact that you're playing a cup competition, like a knockout tournament, which happens all within a short space of time, we know he's got an engine. So that potentially offers something different to a couple of the other players, maybe. I'm not saying that all of the midfielders can't do that, but
yeah, I
mean, I'd be surprised if they've all got a better engine than Joelinton, because his engine's pretty darn good. So
his fitness has improved dramatically, but that's all down to Eddie. I mean, you can't say that nothing about his transformation has been down to Eddie. It's just fantastic. David says, Karius in his interview said he's here to help. He's here to challenge for the team, but happy to help. I like his attitude. Spacebar said it's a great team spirit we have right now. Indeed, it is. Gallagher says, I've got to agree with Abs. Imagine though, I'll get me words on in a minute. Imagine where those 7 to 9 points would be putting us come the end of the season. And Geordie Toon for Life says, get your money on Botman scoring this Saturday. Indeed.
He will, because I took him out my fantasy team, so he will score.
So get your bets on Botman to get a goal, because Alex has done that. And I'll let you know if Billy will let you know later on in the week if he's took Salah out of his. But I don't think Liverpool are playing. So,
I think I'm going to take him out. I think I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. I think I'm going to swap him for De Bruyne and see what happens.
Risk it for a biscuit. I mean, yeah. What kind of biscuit, Alex? That's the question.
Well, I don't know. It depends if De Bruyne scores or not.
Indeed. Gallagher Brown says, I Botman due a goal. I'm desperate to see Big Dan get one too. Jimmy says, great show, Paul and Stato. When will your road show be coming to Bodmin in Cornwall? Legendary show. I mean, listen, if there's any, hotels or bed breakfasts that want to put the Toon review up to do a live show from there, and we'll give them good advertisements, Jimmy, just find out, mate, and let us know. And we'll be happy to come down and do a live and promote the hotel. Yano says, I have loved Joelinton since he first joined the club. I can't wait to see him and Miggy lift a trophy. Stephanie, good evening. She says it can only serve to boost Joe even further. Really, I think he will be in his element. Paul Gallant, good evening to you. Stiff says, as football supporters, we tend to glamorize attackers and take defenders for granted. I hope we appreciate Botman whilst he's here. He is going to be immense for us. I think he's going to be here a long time, Alex. For me, there's no doubt about that. And, if you're talking about international side of things, again, the rise of Newcastle could coincide with the rise of Botman being the new big star for Holland at the back.
Yeah, I don't see why Joelinton wouldn't be in our plans for the foreseeable future. I mean, as we just showed, he's 26. He's improving week on week.
Yeah,
he is so integral, for the way we play. There's no reason, you give him 3 seasons. He's 29, still not a bad age for the position he's playing in. I would be surprised if he's still not an integral player in the 11, or maybe the squad in 3 seasons' time. I think he should still be there. Even if we sign a couple of absolute incredible midfielders, he's still going to be in the team. He's still going to be in the squad. We need depth, as we've seen. The way we play, if we're going to play this way, we need more than 11. We need.
Well, listen, if we're being honest, Alex, Joelinton's one of the best players we've got on the pitch right now, and we never thought we'd say that a year and a half, 2 years ago. So he could be a mainstay for a long time. C-Stock says, I love how the conversation about Joelinton is so different now than it was early last year. Eddie Howe's brought out his brilliance, letting him play his true position. Geordie Toon for Life thinks it might be Jaffa cakes that Alex likes. Who knows? Geordie Howe says, I'm always optimistic going into a tournament, but England have dropped a few levels, quarters at best. We'll come on to England very, very shortly.
I'd just like to say that I think it's Southgate that's dropped the levels. I don't think the squad
absolutely, 100%. Tom says, I can't swap my keeper. I've got Alisson and Sanchez, and neither Liverpool or Brighton's games are on. And he says, I don't like it when fans just add on points if a VAR decision goes against them and they don't win. Are we assuming the opposition won't score another goal, a lapse of concentration? It grinds my gears. Well, yeah, but Alex, I think we're right in saying that Newcastle, had that goal gone in, we would have got the 3 points. I think it's fair to say that had we not had those VAR decisions.
I think it's fair to say. I think we were absolutely dominant in that game. We had 20 shots inside the box. We were at 2.8 XG. There are a few other stats that were suggesting we had 4 XG, which I don't agree with that. I'll go with the 2.8. So I understand what you're saying, Annie, but no.
Good evening to Mrs. Toon Review. Susan actually hopes that someone from the Hilton is watching. If the Hilton, do Cornwall have a Hilton? There must be a Hilton somewhere in Cornwall. Jimmy, come on. Listen, you put the comment there, man. You go and find somewhere that, wants to put us up. Have a bit of advertising and, have the Geordies come down and I love Cornwall. It's a beautiful place. So I would love, in the words of Kevin Keegan, love it if we could do a show from there, without a doubt. We'll get on that Toon Review tour bus and we'll head down to Cornwall. Stu, good evening to you, matey. Clarky says, yeah, but Annie, we could go on and score again too with the extra confidence. Yeah, it does knock you when the confidence gets hit for 6. David says, J7 has missed Bruno. I hope he's back on Saturday. I think I know who you mean, Mrs. Toon Review. Look, Annie says, doesn't happen every time though, Clarky. All the better for your presence, Stu. Stu again just demanding prayers from the... Botman reminds me of Woodgate. Hope he's going to have a long career with us. Well, as long as he doesn't have his injury record, I'd be perfectly happy with that. If he plays as well as Woodgate, I think he can be better than Woodgate, Alex.
Oh yeah, definitely. 100%.
He's got a bigger size, hasn't he? He's more bulkier for a start already.
I think we're getting, at risk of being ageist, I think we're getting to a point where football's moved on a lot from our the last sort of glory years, if you can call them that. I think football's moved on a lot since then, and I think too much time has passed to start comparing players. I think players, whether it's strikers, I mean, you look at the new breed of strikers being 6'4" monster tanks that can drive, dribble, absolutely, sprint, and then you've got the centre backs who are technical footballers nowadays. Like, whereas the technical centre backs from 20 years ago were the world's best because they were quite rare. Whereas now it's expected of a centre back to be fairly technical. I think the game's just moved on so much. But yeah, Botman definitely can be better for sure.
Well, we'll come on to Maxi in just a second. We'll go through a couple of more comments and then we'll have a look at Maxi's chances. Ashley 80 says, I think we now respect defenders and keepers as long-term Newcastle fans. The scars of all those goals we used to let in still hurts. Thank goodness we can defend these days. Matthew says he hasn't even had a call-up yet. He's definitely not going to the World Cup. Obviously going back to Joelinton there. Gallagher Brown says, I feel confident saying we were robbed of points. Stiff Gators says, in-house system with 3 midfielders in intensity, we need 6 quality midfielders for rotation and depth, 2 good players in every position. Big Joe is more than capable of being in that group 6 long-term. Ifs, buts and maybes, but we were robbed of 9 points, says David. Jimmy's on it. He's on it. We may well get to Cornwall. Listen, that goes to anyone in the country. If they know any good hotels or that want a big shout out and do a live show from that hotel, you just let us know. And we will hit that Toon Review tour bus. We haven't got one, but I'm sure we can get one from somewhere. A minibus company would surely sponsor us. I'm pretty confident of that. Norvik, good evening, and get well soon, buddy. I know you're having a few struggles yourself, so with operations and stuff. So you get on the mend soon, my friend. Gallagher Brown says, Stato and Paul, do I think Howe will tweak formation at any point? Pushing for one of our 3 centre midfields forward and playing a proper 10. I don't think Howe's going to change his system anytime soon. I think he's found something that works. He's got the players to work for him. Players have bought into what Eddie Howe is trying to do. There's no reason to change it at all.
There's one specific thing that I'm only 90% sure, but there's a little part of me that thinks he might tweak something when Wilson and Isak are both fit at the same time. I think when he's got Miggy, Isak, Wilson Maxi, I think he might be tempted
See,
to
I
try
think he
something
drops
different.
Miggy, mate. I think he drops Miggy. I honestly, I think he plays Isak and
Possibly.
and then rotates them, because if you remember, Wilson against Everton a couple of seasons ago played on the right of a 3 for some strange reason. Miggy played through the middle, if you recall, and Wilson got 2 goals. So Wilson can play there. Isak can certainly play there. He can play right or left. And Maxi can
unless
do
he
the
puts
same.
Miggy in a 10.
But doesn't it put us in a fantastic position? You know what they're talking about,
Yeah,
when all
indeed.
those guys are fit.
That's
It's
a bit more
incredible.
depth.
We're going to have a hell of an attacking force. Ab says, I'm trying to move on from VAR, but we were robbed by match fixing and corruption. More than a simple error. Take your face for one, Annie, says Abs.
I mean, Annie, mate, they did come out and apologise and say it was wrong. So,
yeah,
you know.
they did. Annie's getting hammered. Chipper says, Annie, Palace didn't score in that game, and we did, so we would have won. Yeah. Foxy says, we got lucky with Joelinton changing position and all of a sudden becoming a key player. Definitely isn't something that you can do often. Is there any other players that's done similar from zero to hero? I'm not
really.
Sure. I can't think of one.
There's been a lot of players over the years at club and international level that have retreated into a fullback role or retreated from fullback to centre back.
Yeah,
you know, like Ramos, when his legs went a little bit, he moved to centre back.
Mm-hmm.
You've got players like Milner, and because let's not forget, Milner was once upon a time tried as a striker and as a right winger for Man City, and then he's been playing recent years as a wing back, fullback for Liverpool. So, there are a lot of players that change position and it works really well. It's not a new thing, but this was quite a surprise. It was a big surprise.
Yeah. Tangy says, just had a sneaky peek at the league table. We could be as high as 7th with a win. When we win against Bournemouth, Tangy, come on, confidence. Aquasia says, ageism doesn't exist in football. Biologically speaking, the human body's physical prime declines as they age. It's not ageism, it's just fact.
Well, I meant more being mean to players of a different generation compared to now. Because I'm on about players in their prime now versus players in their prime 20 years ago. I feel like 9 times out of 10, they're going to be better today because they've all got better sleep patterns, diets, probably a bit more athletic, a bit more energy, better routines, better tactics.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of everything, will contribute to that.
Jimmy says, do you reckon Joelinton originally had reservations about dropping into midfield? Probably, but listen, he's bought into it, hasn't he? I mean, he wouldn't be performing like he is now if he hadn't bought into what Eddie was telling him.
He loves it. He loves it.
He thrives on it. He thrives on
it. When he beats off 2 and we start singing, he loves it.
Yeah. Stiff says 6'4" monster tanks. Moreland defenses immediately springs to mind. Renier, thank you for your super chat, matey. Very kind. Thank you so much. Rob C says, good evening all. How's everyone this fine Monday night? We're okay, my friend. Hopefully we are back to somewhere near full strength Saturday. Well, we'll talk about that in the preview show on Thursday night, of course. Right, Alex, the enigma that is now Maxi's chances to make the World Cup squad. Let's have a chat about that.
Right. So I'm going to spoil it and just say he's not going to the World Cup. He's not.
And that was the chat about Maxi, ladies and gentlemen. We'll move
on. So, I mean, reasons for that. I mean, instead of putting up a graphic, I'm just going to go through a handful of their recent games because it's a bit easier. So, a 4-3-3. They opted for, because they've gone for Digne, and Digne is a winger. Let's be honest, he's a winger. He's basically a younger Trippier who just likes to bomb forward as a winger. So they opted for Rabiot for the cover. And then, if you take a look at who's in Maxi's position, he's not. So he's not going to get in the starting lineup or the squad ahead of Mbappe, and then the striker being Benzema and then Nkunku on the right. Okay, so let's go to the next game. Next game was a 4-2-3-1 with Moussa Diaby, who we know, obviously. Griezmann behind Benzema and Kingsley Coman as the left-sided player. And just for a bit of fun, I think shall I show them what I showed you and Billy the other night, just because it's funny. I think people might enjoy this. So just for reference on whether he's better than Kingsley Coman, he's not. He's not going to get in ahead of Kingsley Coman. So if we scroll down and have a look at Kingsley Coman's career,
that is ridiculous.
So the man has not played a season in which he has not won a domestic title.
I mean, he doesn't score many goals, but look at his. I mean, he's just.
I mean, he got 10 assists, 5 goals. I mean, to be fair, the assists are a bit inflated because they had Lewandowski up front, but even so, two first places for PSG, 2 first places for Juventus, and all the first places for Bayern Munich. So yeah, he's not gonna get ahead of, sort of on the left ahead of Kingsley Coman in that team either. So let's try another one. It's France. Scroll down again. Rabiot is out wide because Digne is the left back and needs defensive cover. So we know that obviously Maxi's not the best at defensive cover. He's getting better, but he's not great at it.
I mean, that French team there, Alex, that is a lot of changes in that French. That's not their proper full side.
No.
I mean, you look at the players in there, that's practically their second 11.
I mean, there's no Griezmann, there's no Mbappe.
Well, look at the defense. The Lloris isn't even in goal. They've got Kimpembe and Saliba at the back. Yeah. Pavard right back. It's not their, that's a completely different France side to the one we know.
I mean, this is the different one altogether. There you go again with Kante and Tchouameni as a double pivot, which is filthy, may I add. That is horrible. That is disgraceful. That should be illegal. That is that is ridiculous. Maxi's not going to the World Cup. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not sure he's even going to get a cap. He's very unlucky that he was born in this generation. It's just a shame. I think 10 years ago, he might have got a few caps and trialed in the squad and tested, but it's just not going to happen. They've got like 8-9 attackers ahead of him right now. So just for context, Moussa Diaby, who we were linked with, who put up 25 goal contributions, isn't starting much for France. So even if Maxi bangs in 15 odd goals, he's still probably not going to start.
The thing is, Alex, called up. I think the World Cup, it's a Brazil-France final. I can't see any, because of the array of talent. France, if they put it together, they've got one hell of a side. And I can't see, for me, I can't see past France or Brazil to win the World Cup. Just because of the array of absolute talent that they have.
I think Brazil are beatable.
But I think France are going to take some stopping.
Oh yeah, they've got a bit more midfield power than they had before with the Tchouameni, Kante. Yeah, the balance there. The balance is just so good that they can have that. They can essentially afford to do what we do. They do what we do with England in terms of they play 3 at the back and 2 defensive midfielders. Mm-hmm. The difference is they've got Benzema and Mbappe up front. So it doesn't matter that they've got a back 7 because their back 7 are also better at progressing the ball than our back 7 for England.
Yeah.
And it's Mbappe, Benzema. So
scary stuff.
It's game over.
Stiff Gator says Joelinton absolutely loves being our junkyard dog and getting involved in scraps. It's a 15-player game now. Strength in depth on the bench is vital. The dreadless juggernaut, who is, of course, Maxi now, that he's shaved his head. Ab says, if it's blatant corruption, we're entitled to add those points because it provides a better indication of where we are as a team. And we are better than our league position. We're better. Yeah, because people have been complaining and moaning on social media saying, oh, we've only won 1 game this season. We would have had a couple more wins had it not been for terrible decisions. It's straightforward and as simple as that. Now, obviously, Fabian Schär, he'll be going to the World Cup with Switzerland, and we'll come on to England in just a second. But just to let you know that the Toon Review still has merch on the go. We still have a website up and running. There will be much more coming onto there in due course, but this is where you go to find what we have currently.
So let's get down to business. I've been waiting, think I wanna make that move now. Baby, tell me if you like it. Tell me if you like it now. I've been waiting, think I wanna make that move now. Baby, tell me how you like it. Let's get down to business.
So there you go. The toonreview.co.uk is the place to go for all your merchandise. We have got merchandise actually delivered from the provider today. Over the last week or so. So we will be getting them out to you. If you have any prior orders and you're waiting for them, they will be sent out very shortly. Brian says, evening, Paul and Alex. See you to a good show. The last play, the Deutsch. Okay. Remember in the summer when Villa fans bragged that Kamara would be better than Bruno? Beardsley would have been brilliant in today's game, so much so we probably couldn't afford him. Graham says, let's be serious. We should have had more points this season if not for VAR. However, I won't be effed off if we finish in the top 10 this season. Why was Man United Leeds cancelled? Just like I said before, it's a policing issue because a lot of the Manchester police will be going down to London to help out with the Queen's funeral. Manchester United Leeds they hate each other. It needs policing. So that's why. Rob says, Paul, my son loves that wall behind you and has me trying to recreate it in his bedroom. Well, there you go. Thank you very much. And a big shout out again to John who put that together for me. He's currently working on the live watch along studio as well, which should be really good. Right, we'll turn our attention finally to England, Alex, and we've got options here. We've got players who I think will definitely be going, and we've got possibles as well.
Yeah, I think obviously the most obvious one to start with is Kieran Trippier. As we've seen, Trent is already not particularly favoured by Southgate. Anyway,
well, he's not a right back, Trent. It's as simple as that. He's
been struggling this season as well. He's been caught walking a lot and not helping in defensive transitions. He switches off at the back post. There's a lot to be desired at international level with him being a fullback. If he's going to be a midfielder, fair enough. But the responsibilities he's got as a fullback, I don't think we'd get away with it at international level at all. But just his Trippier for people who haven't seen him in a long time. He's getting older. He's nearly 32. He's 32 in like a week.
That photo wasn't taken lately either.
No, he looks very tired in that photo. He looks very uninterested, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think very early years.
Oh, he's got 1 XA as well. He should have an assist. Somebody didn't finish their dinner. So this basically his statistical breakdown supports what we've been saying in match reviews every week. Is that the idea generally is if there's no Shelvey or Bruno, is feed the ball outright to Trippier and let him do things, which is very abundantly clear here, where the fact he's got 6.1 progressive passes per 90 in the 95th percentile, and he's got a reasonably high passes attempted as well. So the plan is essentially just ping it out wide and let him try a dangerous ball.
Yeah.
What I really 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 like here is the fact that Matt Targett is his second closest stat match. So you can see a lot of balance in our squad. The fact that Joelinton and Willock are statistically similar now, and Targett and Trippier are also statistically similar. It's really nice to see that. It just shows a lot of balance tactically with the squad, with what they're doing, that they're matching up. And he wins a lot of aerial duels considering he's quite small as well. So well done, Trippier. He's tough lad.
Just quickly, Alex, Yano does not agree with you about ASM at all. He says, what other tripe? Wonder if ASM would be winning a trophy if he played for Bayern, Juventus, etc. Of course he would. The only thing keeping ASM out of the French team is consistency.
I disagree with you. Diaby doesn't start, and he got 25 goal contributions. If Maxi,
it's all about opinions, but I agree with you, Alex. I can't see him getting in, not with those players.
Look, if Maxi starts to get 20 goal contributions in the Premier League, if he gets 20 goal contributions total this year, and then next year he starts to continue that form, he'll get. I think he'll get in a squad. He'll get called up. Doesn't mean he's going to be in the starting 11. They've got Mbappe and Benzema up front. Diaby will be ahead unless his form, goes in the bin. They've just got they've got an abundance of attackers up front. I agree he could get a call up if he goes on an absolute mad one and gets over 20 goal contributions. Yeah, he might be considered for a call up after the World Cup for sure. But they've got so many players that are performing, that are sort of putting twice the output that Maxi is. Maxi's just got to do so much more than he would for any other nation to even get a call up. It's just unfortunate. He's got it in his locker, but it's going to require a lot of graft and a lot of, like we said, consistency. So we'll see.
And of course, he's got to go against Reece James, as Yano was saying there. And Reece James is in the form of his life. Obviously, he's a very, very good right back. I think Reece James starts over Trippier. But, Trippier's 31 now. He's obviously, we know what Southgate's like.
He's
I think
32 next week.
Yeah, I think Reece James starts, to be honest. I really do. I mean, he's not going to play on the left. He can't play Reece James on the left. He just can't.
Well, I mean, if we go back to the conversation we had about Southgate being a slightly more defensive coach as of late,
Slightly? Slightly?
Yeah, I know. I'm being kind there.
Yeah.
He's been using Trippier as a wing back, a right back, a left back, to kind of facilitate his weird, team selections. And I think he'll take Trippier just on the basis that he's a set piece master. He can play on both sides. I mean, I don't think he's particularly great as a left back. I think he's done okay. But I think it's a huge kick in the face to a lot of English left backs that exist when we're playing Kieran Trippier as a left back. I think Kieran Trippier as a left back is still pretty decent as a footballer. He's still very good, very competent. But at international level, you really want to be playing somebody in their natural position. You don't want to be shoehorning at international level, in my opinion. We're not Scotland. We don't want to be doing that with our left back place. Sorry if there are any Scottish people in the chat, but so here's the game that we were on about where I think this is the one where he hurt his shoulder, which I was very scared about. So they went with the 4-2-3-1. It was a bit weird. I think this was the game where Mason Mount and everybody just kind of fell asleep a little bit. I don't mind this. I don't mind this too much, but Harry Maguire getting pushed out to the right was a weird one. I think this is the game where he got mocked on social media because he played that 60-yard pass, which went out for a goal kick.
Listen, Harry Maguire in that team is wrong, full stop. He shouldn't be in the England team. He's just not a good player.
I mean, not when you've got Dunk, Webster, Tomori, Stones. I mean, no, absolutely not. And even Burn to a level. But yeah, Kieran Trippier plays a left back against Italy. So this just goes to show Southgate does rate him. He played him in a Nations League game, not a friendly, in a Nations League game as a starting left back in a back four. So he's on the plane. Unless he gets injured, he's on the plane, in my opinion.
Well, Stiff makes a good point there. He says Trippier's leadership and calm demeanour in the dressing room, or when things go tough, is also hugely valuable. So it's not whether, just because he's not on the pitch, it doesn't mean that he can't.
I mean, he's a captain, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, if you look at that 11 that's on screen now, who gets the armband over Trippier? Really? Sterling? Possibly Maguire? Who else gets the armband over Trippier there?
Well, there isn't anybody.
There isn't.
Declan Rice, maybe.
Yeah, he's definitely up there as a leader, even in the England setup, in my opinion. So
interesting, right? We look at another player. Obviously, Nick Pope. He'll be going, I would assume.
Yeah,
I don't see any reason why Nick Pope won't be on.
Got picked in. I don't think he played any minutes, did he? Because he tried Ramsdale, and Ramsdale had an absolute mare in his last England call-ups.
He certainly did.
No, I don't think Pope got any looks in. So let's bring up Popey on the. He's doing really well, by the way, really well. Save percentage of 82.9, which is really good. Unfortunately, Jordan Pickford's is higher by 1% because he had like an absolute blinder in one game, which it was. Pope's has been higher all season, and then Pickford had one great game and it tweaked it just above. And as you can see, they do play in a similar way, because his stat matches Pickford second. Yeah. Pope just doesn't seem to get affected by crowds and lose his nerve, which we like that. So he's still 30, so he's not too old. We still get a good few years out of him.
No, for a goalkeeper, that's still young.
His stats are getting better. So I was silly and forgot to include the screenshot of when. So if you remember when we did the goalkeeper show and we looked at this. I need to go and find that, because I can show you how he's actually improved statistically since when we were thinking about signing a keeper. And he's still very, very competent in a lot of these areas. His defensive actions, 99th percentile. So I'm quite happy to see, my point was backed up. Before he signed with us, I was singing his praises about the fact that he can come out of his area and he is a sweeper keeper, and he just doesn't get to show it quite as often at Burnley. Well, yeah, there you go. That's he's still in the 99th percentile, and a lot of people have now seen with their own eyes he is a proper sweeper keeper. So, right. So can he get in the England squad? Pickford's injured at the moment. He's got like a month-long injury.
I mean, Spacebar makes a good point there. The Pope has normal-sized arms as well.
He does indeed, and he's not a T-Rex. He would be a much classier dinosaur. And I think he definitely gets some minutes because Pickford's injured. So he will. The question is Ramsdale over Pope. I think Ramsdale's poor performances in the last time out, I feel like it would be rude not to give Pope a try. Obviously, I'm biased when I say that, but I think it would.
I don't think he will, Alex. I think as much as I want him to, I don't think he will because it's Gareth Southgate.
If I try and put my fair hat on and take a step back, I think logically he's got to give Pope a try.
Yeah,
because we play in a reasonably good way that would be beneficial to England. Reasonably good distribution, sweeping ability, good shot stopping, good experience, 30 years old. I think it fits what we would need for an international tournament. And if Pickford's not available, if he's not available at the moment, you try Pope in the friendlies.
I think he's got to play. Well, it's Nations League, isn't it? So it's still competitive to a degree. So I would put him in.
When are we fixtured for? Oh God, I didn't realize we were playing Italy and Germany.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Oh well, I do now.
Oh, what a massive opportunity for if he puts Nick Pope in against those two.
Oh, I know, but have you seen our record? Loss, draw, loss. Imagine if we struggle in these two games, our record is just going to go down the toilet. Anyway, I think he will play 90 minutes in at least one of these matches. I'm 100%. I'd beat it because who else is there? He's not going to give Fraser Forster a go, is he? Who else? Other old people. So it's going to be. It's going to be Pope or Ramsdale. I think it'll be Pope in one, Ramsdale in the other.
Yeah, well,
I'd be surprised.
Pickford is definitely out for the Nations League game. So it is going to be. I'd agree with you. I'd say he's got to try. He's got to put Pope in for one of them. Surely, he has to. Yeah.
Oh, there's our new boy. Yeah, I think Pope will play one. Obviously, we've seen some funnies where they do 45 of one, 45 in the other. I think the magnitude of this game.
But these being Nations League games, Alex, I think it's different.
It's Nations League, it's Italy, it's Germany. He'll give keepers 90 minutes. What am I typing in here? Pick. I'm just going to see if we've got any transfer market information.
Yeah, it's going to be Pope, Dean Henderson, and Ramsdale, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Surely he's got to give Pope's ahead of Henderson. Surely
he's got to be. He's got to be, especially just with the way we play as a team. You don't want. I mean, Henderson's done very, very well. Fair enough. Credit where credit's due, but that's because he's playing in a team which is facing a lot of shots, is doing a lot of defensive graft, and he's able to show his shot stopping ability quite regularly. Whereas Pope is at the moment, he's receiving a lot of shots, but that's because we played a lot of the best teams in the country. But he's still doing a lot of the other stuff as well. He's demonstrating his sweeping ability and he's demonstrating the fact he can stay switched on for that occasional shot, which is really important at international level. Especially the fact that we're playing against teams like Iran and stuff. They might not see a lot of the ball. So you got to make sure that you keep it switched on in those small moments. No, Transfermarkt has not updated Pickford's injuries. So I'm not gonna check all the websites on the stream, but if anybody knows how long, I think it was last week. I think it was announced as a 1 month ish.
I think it was injury. A month to 2 months. So 2
I'm not sure
maximum.
Exactly what it was, but
Steve Gator says Pep Guardiola literally called Nick Pope incredible. He did. Great show, Paul and Alex. Really interesting. Thanks, mate. Now, we know that Southgate as well has been to St James's Park recently, which makes a nice change. The two main fringe players for England places, you're talking about Matt Targett and Callum Wilson here. Now, Ali McCoist was talking this morning about Callum Wilson and said it's just, again, what everybody else is thinking. If he had a decent run at it, he's one of the best finishers in English football. But he can't stay healthy, and that's the problem. And that's what probably puts him off. Now, with Matt Targett, we're not graced with left backs at the minute. That's the thing. We're not graced with great left backs. Luke Shaw, where is he now? He's gone backwards. He's having to put right backs at left back, and that's the big thing that gives the people. He surely must be looking at Matty Targett, Alex. Surely.
I mean, his last England announcement was a squad that included James Justin as a shoehorned left wing back.
Mm-hmm.
There were no other recognised fullbacks that could play left side in the squad. That's why Trippier played there. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. I think Trippier's done enough to be considered a squad player and to be an option. I think he's putting up more consistent performances than players such as Chilwell and Shaw. Obviously, it's very evident that Luke Shaw and Chilwell, when they're on form, are better than Matt Targett. They've produced much higher performances.
Well, Chilwell's just recently come back into the Chelsea fold, hasn't he? And he scored the other week, actually. Against West Ham, didn't he? So
it's when they're playing well, obviously Chilwell and Shaw are better. Output wise, fair enough. They can produce a higher standard, but I think Targett is a lot more consistent and doesn't have these huge dips in form. Doesn't have the injury problems as well.
Yeah.
So I think it would be. I just think it's strange that he's not been picked pre-big tournament to at least try him, bed him in, give him. I think the fact that he's not done that Targett's got no hope. I think Southgate, if he'd got him in his plans, he would have given him 2 or 3 caps and just said, "Look, you're not my first choice, but I want to give you a couple of caps and get you integrated so that if we need you in a major tournament, you're there." And he's not done that. So I think Targett's international career is a non-starter. Unfortunately, I think it's very
he can play for Scotland as well. Let's not forget that. So if he gets fed up in Scotland,
then they're not exactly struggling for left backs, are they? Either with Tierney and Robertson.
Well, yeah, Tierney's always out injured. Robertson's absolutely shocking this season. He's having a stinker. So you never know. Targett is unfashionable and not a typical glamorous overlapping fullback with numbers in his game, but is always solid, Mr. Consistent. Very, very true. Callum Wilson.
I think Callum Wilson, if he'd have stayed fit, as in if he'd have been fit for this last sort of 2 to 3 week period, I think he would have got in this squad.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have had that hamstring pull and he'd have played these last few games, I think he makes this Nations League squad. Yeah, I think he made it because I'm pretty sure Southgate watched the Tammy Abraham performance the other day for Roma and he had a shocker and he was not interested. He was not impressed at all. Obviously, Vardy's not in the fold anymore. He's retired. So I think if Wilson had have managed to maintain fitness to just September, I think he'd have got a call up. And it's a real shame he's just missed it. I think that's it. I think that's done now. I don't think he's ever going to get back in. I think this was his chance. I don't think he's gone. So it's a real shame. But I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. I think unfortunately, injuries come at the wrong time. I think he'd have stayed fit for 6 to 8 weeks. He would have got this Nations League call up, and then
I reckon that as well.
Yeah, it's gone.
Foxy says Tammy Abraham scored for Roma tonight. Great to see him speaking Italian as well.
I did see that video. That was very impressive.
Francisco says, "Hey lads, massive cheers to you. Got in late, so I'll be starting the stream in a bit. Awesome job as always. Chat mods, big cheers to you as well. England always got me hot, but can't perform in big competitions."
We got to the final and lost on penalties.
Yeah, but do you really think we played well in the Euros, Alex? Because I don't think we did. Listen, we got to the final, and that's fact. But he's too negative, Alex. We'll never get anywhere with negative football like he plays. Not against the free-flowing teams like France, Brazil, etc. We just don't exert ourselves like that, and that's the problem.
I think we've got the talent, potentially.
We've got the players to do it, but it's the manager holding them back. That's the problem.
We need a manager who, I mean, a lot of people who have been here for a long time know my thoughts on this, but I think we need to say goodbye to Southgate. I think he's taken us as far as he can. I'm very, very happy with what he's done because he got rid of this, because we had a big media vendetta and horrible culture and toxicity around the England team for a long time. And Southgate managed to completely get rid of it and lifted all of it. And I respect that and I will forever. But I feel like tactically, we need somebody to come in that recognizes the talent that England have got, or we need to just say, right, this is the system, this is the style. We're going to utilize the talent. This is how we're going to play through all levels. And we're going to be aggressive. And if it doesn't work this tournament, we're going to stick with it. and we'll try it in the next tournament, and be aggressive.
Absolutely.
You don't win international tournaments being defensive. It's very rare. You got Greece won the Euros.
Denmark to a degree way back, but look, yeah, you're right. Paul says Pickford is out until the after international break with a thigh strain. Billy, good evening, matey. Palace says Mitchell was selected ahead of target 2. Amazed Matt hasn't had a shot. Tony and Tammy is in front of Wilson due to injury. Yeah, I'd say that's a definite at the minute. I hope Wilson does not, as I want his running time with our shirt on. I really want a Jurassic Park t-shirt now with a Brazilian-themed dinosaur. I love Matt Targett just because he doesn't get up and down the wings as much as Southgate is an arsehole. Ab says, to be honest, I don't think Matt Targett is international quality. Great player in the Premier League, honest pro. Everyone stop talking. Francisco is here. They still haven't forgot his voice. Defensively, Targett is so good. He pockets players. Surprised Southgate hasn't picked him when he loves 11 behind the ball. Samsonite says England got the final on a stolen penalty due to home field advantage. Let's be honest. Southgate Southgate plays not to lose. Conservative, inoffensive, beige brand of football. So much attacking talent that is shackled by his play to not lose mentality. Steve says, do you think Southgate has learned anything from Eddie and what he has done at Newcastle? No. John's going to play his wild card in the Premier League this weekend. Southgate only knackers his ability to crap easy draws. State-wise, Targett is the best left back currently. Billy Boy just realised you're here. Hope you're well. And Spacebar says, Steve, very simple. No, he hasn't. Southgate doesn't like Newcastle and Newcastle players. Interesting. Kendo wants to know if Maxie's got any Scottish great-great-great-grandparents. I don't think he has. But there you go, guys. That is a very interesting show tonight, looking at who may or may not be going to the World Cup. Now, obviously, the World Cup is starting 6 weeks' time. It is upon us.
For those who don't know, Isak's not going. Sweden didn't qualify. Just in case you were excited, no Isak in the World Cup.
No. But we've got a lot of build up to the World Cup on this channel. We're going to do the Italy and German games. We will have watch-alongs for as well, because we are starting to build up to the World Cup now. We will be bringing you a lot of World Cup coverage on this channel as well. We've got Premier League to think about before then, though. So the build up to the Bournemouth game starts tomorrow night on the fan forum. So join me and Billy for that. And we'll join us live on the show. Have you say what you think about things going on at Newcastle United. Will Bruno be back? ASM. All the conversation and the build-up, and, of course, your predictions. Thursday night will be the preview show for the Bournemouth game. We'll all be back for that, all 4 of us. Friday night will be TTR Friday. Just to break in a good laugh to the weekend. And then Billy Bob Coleman will bring you live commentary on Saturday of the game. The show will start at 2:30 with match build-up and then kick off at 3. Sunday, we'll have the review of the game with player ratings, etc. So loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff coming up on the channel. Any news that comes from Newcastle during the day, I'll do a video on and release that and talk about that as well. So loads coming up. So if you're not subscribed, guys, please hit the subscribe button. It is free to do so. Hit the notification bell as well, and you'll be notified when we go live or bring out a video as well. But don't forget to hit the like button on this show as well, guys. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to Super Chatters, new members, etc. Alex, thank you for coming on tonight. The Mod Squad again, brilliant work behind the scenes. And we'll see you tomorrow night at 8:30 for the fan forum. But in the meantime, guys, good night and take care.